Conspiracy theories, eh? Wait till you get a load of this. Hello, and welcome to Crack Sisters Conspiracies. We're a podcast that covers conspiracy theories, mysteries, and all over spooky shit. My name is Cassandra.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are said sisters. Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Plagued with technical issues is how we roll. Had to relocate the microphone and had a hell of a time setting it up here.
It was a conundrum.
But it'll do for now. Our office is changing.
To be fair, their view is exactly the same. They never get to see any of this.
And I say ours like I claim the space.
Yes, I started packing my house up. Yeah. I'm leaving you shortly.
You are. No, oh my God, man. I'm still deep in denial and have not emotionally processed the abandonment that is forthcoming.
I mean, I've done it to you once already. I feel like you should be a pro by now.
I should be. And I just keep telling myself, at least you're in the same state.
That's true. I'm only a short 6 hours away.
So we'll see how that goes.
Or an hour and 30-minute plane ride.
I will not be flying with her again.
Where did you fly with her the first time?
Vegas.
So yes, when you decided to take your 6-year-old child to Vegas with us. That was fun.
Don't do that. Terrible mistake. But by the time you make the arrangements to get to the local airport, have to fly in and, get settled, even though the flight's only like an hour and a half, it's going to be like a multi-hour process. I might as well just drive where I have full control.
Fly for an hour and a half.
And then deal with...
No, I'm not done.
Oh,
okay. Drive with this 8-year-old for 6 hours.
So, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. And thank God for technology because, I have a tablet child. I have no shame that
you do.
She can have...
Even though you came woefully unprepared today by leaving your tablet child unattended with a 5% battery life.
Okay, that was on her. Her tablet is her responsibility. And she's like, I'm going to bring my iPad. I'm like, that's great. And then it was 5%. Yeah. Anywho, she is a tablet kid. It was not my fault. Her responsibility. Regardless. We'll see what it's like when I come to visit you. We are all over the place already.
We are.
Okay.
Let me tell you about my toe.
Yeah. Oh, the toe. Yes, because you're like, I hurt myself, but I can't tell you. I gotta save it for the podcast. And then you're like, oh, my toe. I'm like, what's wrong?
Because it hurts. So it's my big toe. And I heard it in the dumbest way possible. We got into a fight with someone at work. And I had to kneel. And the way I was kneeling decided to strain my toe muscle. And I had to sit there for 10 minutes. So by the time I got up, I'm like, oh, my toe really hurts. That's fine. And then the next day I'm like, wow, I can't move my toe or walk on my toe or wiggle it or do anything. I think it's broken. And then I ignored it. And then the next day it wasn't getting any better. So then I had to call my boss and I'm like, hey, I got the dumbest fucking injury and I need to make a report. And he's like, okay. So I tell him all about it. And then he's like, oh, okay. So do you know what I'm going to ask next? I'm like how bad does it hurt? He goes, no. I'm like, do you want a picture of my toe? He goes, yeah. I'm like, sir, people pay for good money for these pictures. He's like, I know. He's like, I just need a picture of your foot. I'm like, all right, I'll text it to you. He's like, please don't. Do not text my personal phone number. He goes, send it to my work phone, or better yet, just email it. He's like, because I might have to print a picture of it. I said, this is getting very strange. So I had to take off my shoe and take a couple different variations of it. And then I emailed it to him and he never responded. I'm like, okay. And then I sent it again and he also never responded. And then by the end of my shift, he's like, hey, I'm still waiting on that picture. I'm like, sir, I've sent it to you twice. I go, I feel like
it to?
No, I'm like, I feel like if I send it to you a third time, I'm just asking for something. I'm like, I'm just going to text it to you. And so then I texted him a picture on his work phone. And it was so fucking hard not to say something super inappropriate. So I just said, for work purposes only. That was it. My text or my emails just never went through.
Are they,
to my knowledge,
sitting in your outbox? Did you have the right email address? Did you accidentally send it to someone in a different department with a similar name? And they're going to be like, why is LaRue sending me a picture of her fucking toe? Like, awesome.
Yeah, I just strained the muscle, but it hurts.
From kneeling. At no point were you able to like readjust your
No, the person was like actively fighting with us, and I was on his legs to make sure I didn't get kicked in the face. So and there was like 10 of us.
There was no way to shimmy.
No.
Okay.
And then the paramedics injected him with like a cocktail to make him calm the fuck down.
Sure.
They're like, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to kick in. So we just had to sit there, and it was excruciating.
Well, that is an interesting injury.
It is.
Yeah, so what happens with work as far as like filing a claim about your injured
So there's like multiple steps. This one's just like hey, just so you know step.
Notification.
He's like, okay, if it doesn't get better, just let me know and you can go get an x-ray or something. So that would be the next one. I don't think it's going to progress that far, but like you do like hey, I hurt myself, just so it's on the record in case you think it's going to be fine, or one day it might not get fine.
Then there's
the official
history.
one where you have to go to like the approved medical center and get it checked out. Because I had that happen when I got bit. I had to.
Well, I mean, that was a valid.
Yeah, so I had to do that, and then
get fucking rabies.
Yeah, and then it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And then any expenses just go to HR and they figure out how to pay for it.
I would probably be too ashamed and embarrassed and would just say take the toe versus.
I mean, it's a big toe. You can't cut that off.
Your whole balance.
My balance would be off. And I'm not willing to sacrifice a thumb.
No.
Because they do replace toes with thumbs.
The fuck?
Big toes, yeah, they're very similar.
I mean, it is the big toe of the thumb of your foot, but.
Yeah. And fun fact, it's called the helix. Because my boss is like, can I have the professional name for a big toe? I go, I don't know. And then I Googled it and it was helix.
I feel like he could have done that himself, but.
To each his own.
Well, that is a riveting story.
It was funny the other day.
No, it was very entertaining. We both came with fun stories to share with one another today. Excuse me.
What story did you tell?
Oh, the story of my daughter's, self-induced haircut.
You've not said one fucking word about that.
I told you about it. I didn't say I shared it with the listeners.
Oh,
I see. Meant both of us. And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to have the same impact because you just heard this story.
I think it's hilarious.
2 hours ago. But yes, my 8-year-old daughter, in an effort to take matters into her own hands to avoid getting into trouble and to try to be independent, ended up cutting off a gnarly chunk of her hair again. And I say again because she was one of the many who gave themselves a quarantine COVID cut in 2020 when she was 2020 when she was about 5. And yeah, that was out of sheer boredom. She had the most awesome bangs for the longest time. But that was not what happened this time.
What happened this time?
Apparently, she got toothpaste in her hair. And instead of just saying, yo, mom, I got a problem. Can you help me out? She's like, no, I got this. She did not get this.
What did she do?
Tucked her to bed. She was ready to go. I'm like, see you in the morning. Everything's great. She wakes up. I go to do her hair the next morning. And I'm like, why is this not coming together? And then I realized she's got full on alfalfa at the hairline. It just looked like someone ripped a chunk of hair out or something. And so I'm like, where did your hair go? It was here last night and it's not here this morning. And after some hemming and hawing and veiled threats, she confessed that she had gotten something sticky, which I learned was toothpaste because I found more of it in a different part of her hair. And to avoid getting in trouble because she was in bed and she shouldn't have been getting out of bed and she had shit in her hair, she grabbed a pair of scissors, one of the many apparently that she had been smuggling in her bedroom, and just cut it right off, leaving about 1.5 inches of sprouts, from the top of her head. And I was like, okay, let's maybe not do that next time. I'm not mad. You're not in trouble. You're the one who has to deal with this. And I feel bad for you. And then the thought occurred to me, where is the hair? Because I saw no evidence of this in her bathroom trash and, the other trash. Not that I go digging through the trash, but I feel like I would notice a large amount of hair. And again, after some more hemming and hawing and, I don't know. Oh, maybe I do remember where it is. I'll go get it. Didn't trust that girl to do anything alone. So I decided to follow her into her room, where she then proceeds to drop down and army crawl to her bookshelf and slide about halfway under, and then emerges with a wad of hair.
Well, at least you know where she's going to hide shit when she gets older.
Right? So I have to look under everything now just to keep her in check. But I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, how did that get there?
And it's a logical response. I get it. She wasn't supposed to be out of bed, up out of her room. She doesn't have a trash can for another set of reasons that we won't get into today. But she didn't know what to do, but she didn't want it in her bed. So she just hid it under her bookshelf.
So let's remember this 15, 20 years when she does become a serial killer, like I have predicted since she was about 1. She's gonna be hiding some bodies.
Probably. Her instincts on hiding locations
and lying about it. She's not good at lying about it.
She is not good at lying, period. Which that's an advantage I have, because she doesn't do it very often, fortunately, but it's very obvious when she does.
So what are we talking about today?
Today we are, I was looking at my notes and the recording order. We are doing double duty today.
We're doing triple duty, honestly.
We are, with the length of the episodes that we're recording, but in anticipation of you getting ready to move, we're trying to backfill our inventory, our queue. So that way we can keep fresh content coming out. So this week's topic, when I say this week, the first topic we will cover tonight is something that most everyone has probably heard of at this point. And you've likely experienced it in one way or another yourself. And it wasn't really a known thing until the internet got a hold of it. But I am going to be talking about the Mandela Effect. So for those of you who are unaware, the Mandela Effect refers to a situation in which a large group of people collectively believe that something happened or existed in a certain specific way, when in reality, it did not.
So aka a large false memory, right?
Yes, that's a great way to describe it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
Are you familiar with who Nelson Mandela is?
I know the name.
Okay. He used to be the president of South Africa.
Okay.
Do you think he is alive or dead?
I don't know. Because I'm
it's okay. It's not a trick question.
I am under the impression that he's dead. If I take any Mandela Effect research out of my brain.
You are correct. He is dead.
Okay, I thought he wasn't. So
do you have any idea when he died?
Allegedly in prison.
I said when, not where. Okay.
During the time of his incarceration.
Okay. So you were not the target audience for this particular example, but let me expand a little bit.
Sure.
So the phenomenon, the Mandela Effect, got its name back in 2009 from a woman named Fiona Broome. She had a shared experience with a large group of other people in which they all remembered that Nelson Mandela died in the 80s, but he actually died in 2013. So she had gone on to develop a website where she discussed how she came across the phenomenon initially. And why are you
every time you say
phenomenon? Was that a Dr. Pepper commercial or something?
I don't know. Maybe it's a Mandela
I want to
Effect.
say it was the Dr. Pepper cherry Coke or not cherry Coke, cherry vanilla. There was some weird ass flavor combination of Dr. Pepper, and I swear that's where that
possibly. I just know it, and every time that goes through.
I had not thought about that a single time because my notes, I was just typing them out.
Yeah.
But
when you hear it out loud, it's fine. Anyway.
Okay. Anywho, Miss Fiona Broom had been at a conference and she, for whatever reason, was talking with a bunch of people, and the conversation turned towards the tragedy that was Nelson Mandela's death in a South African prison in the 1980s. Others supported her recalling of the experience and even chimed in with their own accounts, having remembered seeing the news coverage on it, and like that totally tracked with what their memory was. And the volume of people, the shared details, everything aligned, but their realities were false because he did not die in the South African prison in 1980s. He died 30 some odd years later in a completely different scenario.
Did he go to prison?
I didn't look. Did he? Was he ever actually in prison?
I feel like that's a great place to start.
Okay. I was not researching him personally.
I figured you would expect at least one follow-up question. Oh my God.
To be fair, I was typing my notes hastily today while working. So, my effort might have been lacking in some areas.
He spent over 27 years in prison.
Did he die in prison?
Do you want to do all your research? So he was arrested on several occasions and he stood trial 4 times.
Sure.
He died on December 5th, 2013 in Johannesburg, and he was 95 years old.
So he was in South Africa and it was 2013, but not in prison. Okay.
Yes.
But anywho, all of these people were convinced that they had seen news coverage and all of that in the 80s. But it was not true. Her book publisher encouraged her to investigate more than I did. So she started a website dedicated to documenting other instances where the Mandela Effect happened online. What?
If I were to ask you, what's the name of the website?
No. Bare bones facts.
Cool. So, okay.
Now that we've established,
I'm just not going to ask any questions.
I didn't do a book report on Nelson Mandela, okay? Talking about the Mandela Effect. It just happened to start because of it.
Okay.
I'm going to go through a list of examples.
I hope you did some research. Okay.
And of the examples, I swear at least a handful of them I remember occurring one way, and apparently I was wrong.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of these come up over the years, so it's not like super impactful when I review them. I'm like, oh, I've been exposed to it, so I don't see it the same way anymore. But I'm curious to see if you come across these as well. We're both currently just tear stricken.
That was pretty funny.
It was. Okay, we're going to start with a Star Wars example because
not going to know it anyway.
Doesn't love Star Wars?
I
know you don't. In The Empire Strikes Back, which is the second movie, but is episode 5. That's a little confusing if you're...
I know there's episodes or something.
Okay. Having an episode right now myself. So in this particular Star Wars, there was a big plot twist reveal in a scene between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
So yeah, the spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it like 50 years later, that's a little much, but we learned that Vader is actually Luke's father in this scene. And the moment is remembered by many, many people as Darth Vader proclaiming, do you know?
Luke, I am your father.
Correct. You are wrong.
I know.
In actuality, while the line is close, it is not correct. Vader doesn't call Luke out by name. He says, no, I am not your father. I am your father. It's not an episode of Maury. Oh my God. He doesn't call Luke out by name. Instead, the actual quote is, no, I am your father.
Okay. Have you seen Pitch Perfect?
Yes. Vader means father. I did not look to see if that was true.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention.
Yes, I was thinking that as well, but did not fact check that. It was just a thought that popped into my head, but not intriguing enough in the moment for me to chase that thread. Gotcha. Otherwise, the entire ball of yarn up here was going to unspool. Okay, so this one, I wholeheartedly believed it to be one way, and I refused to believe it was going to be something else because it doesn't sound right. In Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the evil queen has this magic mirror that she consults looking for guidance and validation. I mean, not totally off base. Don't we all do that when we're looking in the mirror? But when she needs the mirror to reassure her of her greatness, she asks, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
No.
I don't like this game.
Apparently, it's magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all.
Well, that's just not too far off.
It's not, but that's not, it doesn't sound
I agree,
right.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm like, magic mirror on the wall. No, it doesn't sound right, but it is.
But it is a magic mirror, is it not?
It is the magic mirror. It's like the dude who lives in the magic mirror. I didn't watch Snow White. So with the whole mirror, mirror versus magic mirror, this one's a little weird and has some caveats to the whole Mandela effect in that it's both correct and incorrect, or true and false. It's really common for it to be misquoted or misremembered, mainly because it originated from a Brothers Grimm story years and years and years before the movie existed. And when it was translated into English, the quote then was mirror, mirror, and it was slightly different.
Oh, okay.
So then when Disney made, the animated version, they decided to like switch it up a bit, and it was magic mirror in the movie. But everything else following that, like I'm fairly certain it was a Disney movie. It has big teeth lady, Julia Roberts. It's called Mirror, Mirror. It's like a story about Snow White, but I'm like, the quote was magic mirror.
Okay, yeah.
So it's I guess it's based on the origin in which you learned it from that will dictate how you remember it.
That's fair. Okay.
But I mean, it's not like I read Grimm's fairy tales and that's where I got it from. No, I watched the movie, but I still think of Mirror, Mirror, not magic mirror. Mm-hmm. But that one, I guess it depends on your source material. So it's right and wrong. So is that truly the Mandela effect? I don't know that that's the best example of it, but it's an example.
Okay.
Another example, I have given very little thought to this, I even noted it, is the spelling of Meyer when referring to Oscar Meyer.
Because Oscar Meyer, oh, that's how you spell bologna.
Oscar Meyer wiener. Wait, how are you going to sing the bologna song?
Because Oscar Meyer has a way with Bologna. That's the only way I know how to spell bologna.
Bologna. That's how I remember. That's like Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay. But yes, Oscar Meyer wiener. Gun to your head. How would you spell Meyer?
Meyer.
Wrong.
I already said I don't like this game.
It's Mayer.
That's for Meyer.
Meyer. This one's annoying because it's not spelled the way that it sounds. So I feel like that's probably the main reason why a lot of people remember or think that it's Meyer, because that's what logically you would expect it to be. When it's spelled completely different, I feel like that one's not
okay.
That one's not fair. A similar example of that is the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah, it's Bernstein, right?
No, it's the
you tricked me.
You would think that it's spelled like Stein, Stein. It's Stain.
Oh, yes.
Who's going to spell it like that? It's the same thing where with Myers, it's an A instead of an E, and it's stupid. But I think it's not a collective misremembering in this instance as well. It's just because
common sense would dictate.
Yeah. It's like their name's Berenstein. I'm going to spell it Steen, not Stain. So again, I don't think that this is a true example either, but these are ones that are commonly referred to as examples, but there's holes in those.
Okay.
Now,
do you give us a true example of what you think?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, this is one of the
I should have
first examples that I have a strong core memory of.
Okay.
And it apparently just didn't exist. And that is the memory of a movie called Shazam with Sinbad. Not to be confused with Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal.
Sinbad from The Lion King?
Not Simba. Am I dating myself? Do you not know who Sinbad is? Okay, hold on.
Obviously not.
Not, you know what? To be fair, that might have been a little bit before your time. Sinbad. I'm pulling up a picture for her. This guy.
Oh, I didn't know that was his name.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a picture because, I mean, these have all been mocked, or not mocked, but like made up since this whole Mandela phenomenon came about. But this is what I remember as well. And I refuse to believe that it is not true. I remember this. I remember the concept of this movie.
That shirt.
Right?
And like, does he dance?
Right. It's like dancing genie, some weird ass shit. No, never happened. It never happened. Huh. Yes. So like Sinbad himself is like, I don't know what the fuck y'all are talking about. Like, I was never in this movie, but okay, that's cool.
So someone came up with that cover art after the fact?
After the fact.
Okay.
And as an April Fool's joke, have you heard of the site College Humor?
Yeah, I've seen some of their videos.
Okay, so they worked in conjunction with Sinbad for an April Fool's joke where they had a 2-minute clip essentially where they're like, the movie's been found, it exists, here's 2 minutes of footage of it, but it was really shot in modern day but meant to look like in the 90s. And so a lot of people are like, oh my god, I told you it was real, this is exactly what I remember. But the weird thing is, yeah, the way that he was dressed even in like the mock video, that's exactly the way that I remember it happening.
Okay.
So I feel that it really existed and it's this whole big conspiracy to like push that shit down. It was terrible.
What nugget of greatness was in this movie that they needed, they being the collective, they needed to shove it down and hide it forever?
It was the exact opposite. It was because there was no greatness. It was because it was
so bad.
Utter garbage.
That I would believe, actually. That tracks.
But yeah, apparently myself and many, many others were wrong.
Okay.
I don't entirely believe that. Don't get me wrong. I will admit if I am in
Don't
the
get
wrong.
me wrong, I wasn't wrong.
Yes. It's not where I was going with that, but when I had it parroted back to me, you're right. That sounds terrible.
What else you got?
Other common examples. The Monopoly Man.
I have my own theory of this one.
Okay. Describe him to me.
He has a top hat, but not a monocle.
Are you sure?
Because you're getting him mixed up with the Peanut Man.
That's what it is.
I know.
Well, and like also his eyebrows are very round, so it could be like,
considering how Monopoly is banned in our household, I don't have a great form to go off of, but Dad loved peanuts.
But we did have a lot of planters.
So I saw a lot of the Peanut Man, not a lot of the Monopoly Man, but I think that's where everyone gets. I should probably have led with, I don't believe in the man. I don't think it's real. I think it's just either that people merging two items that look similar into one and creating a new item, or a misspelling, a misremembrance.
So yeah, the Monopoly guy, the monocle, that is actually, you're probably completely right. Yeah, because I was like, oh, does he not? And I have Trolls Monopoly and Simi Valley-opoly.
We don't have real Monopoly because we can't.
So I can't fact check that, and I don't 100% believe everything I see on the internet, and neither should you. What about the Fruit of the Loom logo? Cornucopia or no cornucopia?
With the basket?
Yeah, with the fruit in it.
I know it doesn't, but I'm going to say yes, because in my head it is yes.
Right?
But it's because we're thinking of something else. I can't think of what it is at this point.
I don't know what that would be, unless it's like you see a pile of fruit, you think a harvest, you think harvest time cornucopia.
Yeah, that one I do have that in my head, so I'll give you that.
Okay, but yeah, there's no cornucopia. It's just fruit. Okay, I should have asked Grayson when she was here, because she is a Pokemon nerd. Okay. But like others, I believe that Pikachu had a black, little stripy stripe on his tail, on the tip of his tail. He doesn't. It's all yellow.
Lightning bolt?
You would think it's not. It's all yellow.
I did not. I had Pokemon cards, but I didn't really play.
I have Pokemon cards littering the backseat of my truck right now, so I could go grab one. But I looked. It's all yellow and sad.
See, but when you look at Oscar Meyer and Meyer, it looks wrong to be Mey.
It looks wrong here, but when I'm thinking about it in my mind,
yes, I agree.
Meyer.
I'm not doing this.
Okay, so let's look into some of the explanations of the Mandela effect.
Sure.
Because how can so many people have a shared memory of something and it's just completely wrong. One reason is what you had alluded to, false memories. So it's very easy for memories to get muddled up in our brains, especially when we get farther away from the time that we actually learned them.
Yeah.
So when we try to recall an old memory, it's usually like pulling bits and pieces of it from the depths of your inner self, and our brains just filling in the gaps like, good enough. Let's cobble this together for you. When in reality, that might not be entirely what happened.
Yeah.
Memory is notoriously unreliable. It's like, do you guys really take testimony or eyewitness accounts? Like, do you take those things with like a grain of salt or?
Yeah. So even like if we're to give like a photo lineup or something of something that happened even semi-recently, they've changed the laws in order to protect suspects. So it's no longer, it's called a 6-pack. It's no longer a 6-pack where you hand someone a photo and there's 6 different people. You have to do it one at a time, and they can't look at 2 or any more at a time. It has to be one at a time. They can go back, but it's only one at a time.
Okay.
But yeah, it's I don't know like the statistic or the percentage, but a memory is like a memory of a memory in and of itself.
Right.
And then if you add time, you add different factors, it just quickly degrades.
Yeah. So like, I know I remember facts really well, factual things that you would learn in like a textbook. I can recall those things because those don't change. They are black and white. But as far as like experiences, I have a pretty good handle on remembering them, but those memories do get foggier as time goes on. There's that gray kind of dimming around the edges, especially the longer it's been since that experience happened.
Yeah.
So I will remember a lot of things about the experience. Primarily, I remember how I felt.
That's really popular.
I'm a super emotional person. I have empathy too, but but a true accounting of what actually took place, I would not rely on my memory.
And it's not just you, it's everybody.
Yeah. I remember enough. It's clear enough, but it's not going to be like the exact recounting.
And yeah, your brain will naturally fill in the gaps against your will.
And then even then, you and I could experience the exact same thing. The way I remember it and the way you remember it can be very different based on our biases, our internal workings. So this is also kind of part of a concept called confabulation. So that's when your brain fills in gaps in your memory.
God, I'm a genius.
Yeah, you are. Sometimes you have these strokes of genius, and I am constantly impressed by you. But yeah, so it's filling in the missing pieces in order to make something make more sense. So this is something that definitely happens with age as you get older. Yeah. So priming, which is also known as suggestibility as the concept, is a thing that can influence our memories. So it's when there are descriptive factors leading up to something that impacts our perception of it. So like subtle suggestions can impact your memory and your response to something. So if I ask you, did you see the black car versus did you see a black car, is an example. So like in the first one, I have essentially confirmed and made it a fact that there is a black car that exists. So you either saw that or you didn't, versus the other one, it could be a black car or not. So that could be a way to kind of manipulate the memory. So it's not going to be a true accounting of it.
Yeah, that's why if you're ever interrogating someone, you need to do non-leading questions. You have to do open-ended questions and let them fill in the details and the specifics instead of you, whether intentionally or unintentionally, put it in their brain for them.
Do you guys ever just do the silent treatment and just wait for them just to start talking?
I am almost never in an interview room.
You don't get to participate in that kind of stuff?
My interviews are usually in the field.
Oh, well.
And if I'm trying to talk to you, I'm not just going to ignore you. That's kind of defeats.
Well, it's like what happened, and then you just stare and then wait.
It's called like a pregnancy pause.
Pregnant pause.
Those are good. So like if I asked you, what I think you murdered your husband. So I say, okay, what happened? And then I'll wait. Instead of saying, what happened when you got home? That's kind of, I'm directing you somewhere. So I'll just say, tell me what happened. And then you'll be like, I came home. And then I'll just kind of look at you, because awkward silence makes people want to fill in that awkward. Yes. So that's like the pausing that, can be done. Okay. because it makes people uncomfortable if someone's just sitting there and like they're expecting you to say more. So you go, oh fuck, I should just keep word vomiting. So then you'll say more information. That's the only real time I'll pause. But I don't just sit there and stare at you.
Oh, I was just curious. Yeah, because if you have an idea of what you think happened, if you are asking specific questions tailored to get an answer that you're looking for, you're essentially manipulating that conversation.
I'll ask you a straight up question, but like especially with kids, it's always only open-ended questions because they're so susceptible to your suggestion that you cannot ask leading 100% specific questions.
No, kids are dumb.
Yeah.
So the most logical explanation of the Mandela effect, it's my personal favorite, is we are existing in the whole parallel universe.
The simulation.
No, not the simulation, but there's multiple realities, different timelines.
Okay. So then I have one after that.
So quantum physics is who we have to thank.
I'm out.
But in a nutshell, it suggests that the timeline that we live in, so what we are experiencing currently,
linear.
It's a rubber band, man.
Did you ever see that fucking movie with Matthew McConaughey, Interstellar?
And what? Oh, Interstellar? Yes, very confusing.
I fucking hated that movie.
It was good.
It was so confusing and dumb.
It's hard. Time stuff is difficult to, conceptualize. But yeah, so we exist in our timeline. So what we experience happens to us and us alone. But this theory suggests that it's not just our timeline that's out there, that there are an infinite amount of timelines, versions of us, and any which scenario is happening at any given time. And so with the Mandela effect, what they suspect may be happening is that there is a mixing of the timelines. So like something that existed on our plane of existence and something that happened in Bizarro Cassie world is I am experiencing because there was some shift that caused that. I just had a mini stroke.
That was something. Yes.
And so that could be a reason why so many people in our space are experiencing the same thing, because we all were exposed to that same change in our timeline.
So I have heard that the Mandela effect is caused because we're in a simulation. And so
like the Matrix.
I haven't seen the Matrix recently enough to know really what
like, am I laying in a pot of goo with a bunch of shit plugged into me?
Possibly. So basically they're saying, let's say we're in simulation A and Mandela went to prison and he got shanked or however the fuck he died in, I don't know, in prison. But then a glitch in the Matrix happens to now we're in simulation B. But some of us still have our core memories from simulation A, but now we're in this new world where everything's different. He didn't die. He died when 2013 of an infection, I read. So, but people still have those memories because their brains are still rooted from that first simulation, but because of a glitch, it shifted everything on them.
Okay, so similar concept. And so I like this one because even though it's far-fetched, at the end of the day, you can't prove it or disprove it. There is no way to quantify whether that is something that is actually true. So you can either choose to believe it or not.
Okay.
And yeah, I like this one because it's better than thinking that my memory is failing me at such a young, tender age. But yeah, so that is the most likely scenario, but really it's just people misremembering. And
I do not believe it. I
don't either.
It's fun.
It's fun to entertain.
It is, but deep down, there's like a reason for everything.
Well, right. Like in some of the examples, like there was a legitimate reason for why it would be misremembered. It wasn't any big question. Yeah. So yeah, so it's interesting, even though my lack of overall research about Nelson Mandela's incarceration. Well, it's nice to have some, input here and there. Yeah, so that is the Mandela effect. So yeah, if we were to rate the whole concept on this scale, I would say perfectly plausible, but definitely deniable.
There you go.
Because yeah, it can go either way. And you can't tell me for fact that I am not existing in one plane of existence versus another. That is a lot of words.
I think it's certifiably correct, but
that's okay. We don't have to agree. We can have a healthy disagreement. I'm not even like pressed, so it's cool.
Okay, bro. Don't get pressed.
Alrighty. So
I like that topic.
That was interesting. I think it was Evan's suggestion.
But then he didn't want to be a part of our fun.
I remembered him.
That was not a mismemory.
Apparently, I voluntold him.
I think your enthusiasm level maybe have clouded your brain just a little bit.
Probably because it was matched with absolutely none.
Yeah.
But I ended up presenting his topic, and I probably did a better job than he would have.
I'm sure he would have looked into the 2 questions I had, but otherwise, you're sure.
You know, maybe. I don't know. So, what is our next topic?
So our next episode is going to be a special episode.
Special episode.
So it's going to be our 25th episode.
Oh my God.
I know. So we have decided to do a quarterly series.
A different segment that's a little outside of the box.
Yeah, so every quarterly episode, so the 25th, 50th, 75th, etc., is going to be a series that we have named Killers Quarterly.
Or Quarterly Killers, whoever you ask.
I can't remember the name of it, so I keep calling it the other thing. One of the two, Killers Quarterly, Quarterly Killers. And we're going to talk about different serial killers. Each one of us is going to have one specific serial killer. And the episode's going to be probably double the time because we're both going to cover one serial killer each.
So buckle up.
Yeah, but it's just kind of something to like a palate cleanser, something different. But it's still interesting. It's still something spooky. But I have like a very unhealthy fascination with serial killers. So
do.
I think it's a good little outlet. And if you guys obviously want us to cover any specific serial killer, yeah, you have to wait 25 episodes.
But stick around, we'll make it worth your while.
We will happily do that if you give us a suggestion.
And speaking of that, the different ways to reach out to us, you can email us. Again, no one has sent us an email.
No, I'm really
crackedsistersconspiracies@gmail.com. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, or X, I guess is what it's called now. It's not Twitter anymore. Elon changed it to X.
Didn't know that.
And not that we use it, so don't contact us there. It exists, but barely. Our primary method of communication is through Instagram. That's where we have our biggest following and the most communication. We quasi have a Patreon. I don't know. This thing is just limping along.
No one wants to donate, so we put 0 effort into it.
We have, but if there is some interest, then we will generate interest. But you can reach us there. It's patreon.com/crack sisters conspiracies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so with that, stay cracked, y'all.
And have a great day.